Yeah, it's a great question. And maybe just to put that into context, I'll tell you a little bit about the pain point we're trying to solve and how we go about solving it and how that applies to municipalities. So ultimately, if you're thinking about the energy transition, moving away from fossil fuels towards clean energy, you need to solve for two things. You need to get clean energy where it's needed, and you need to get clean energy when it's needed. To get clean energy where it's needed, you need the solar farms and the wind farms and the transmission and the energy traders and all that good stuff. To get it when it's needed is slightly more complicated because the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine necessarily at the same times that people want to use electricity. And you can use batteries to solve that mismatch by storing all that excess solar when it's generated for use when it's actually needed. But as we all know, batteries are really expensive. And that's where Plentify comes in. So we solve this mismatch between electricity supply and electricity demand for 75% cheaper than batteries. And we do that by shifting when the appliances in your home use electricity to align with times when clean energy is available and avoid times when the grid is at risk, for example, of load shedding. So effectively what we're doing is we're putting devices onto appliances in your home, and those devices control when your appliances use electricity, ensuring that you get the service you want from the appliance, but that they draw the electricity as little as possible and using clean energy as much as possible. This is obviously really relevant for municipalities on a number of different levels. It's really important for them as they think about building a more reliable electricity system and how do they better align electricity supply and demand to avoid things like load shedding. It's really important as they manage their own finances because as more solar comes on, it's eating into their revenue, and they obviously want to protect their revenue base, but also want to protect their cost base and not spend too much on electricity from Eskom or other sources. And our technology helps do all of this. We've launched a project with eThekwini Municipality called Project Smart Solar. What this project intends to demonstrate is how residential solar systems, if better managed, can not only help those homeowners save a lot more off their electricity bills, but also enable a more reliable, resilient, and affordable electricity system for everyone. The way that we will be doing this is deploying our technology into a few hundred homes in the eThekwini Municipality and running some services for them. Services like managing the state of charge of their home batteries to ensure they're charged as much as possible with solar, managing how their appliances are supplied in the home, doing that as much as possible with solar. And when the home is satisfied, there's always a little bit of potential left in that solar and battery system, and aggregating that together across all the households to provide stability and services back to the electricity system to benefit everyone else. And that's the primary interest of eThekwini is, how do we use these distributed energy systems to provide value to the utility, but also how do we promote solar in a way that is good for everyone, that helps the homeowner, but doesn't threaten the financial viability of utilities. Yeah, I think the poor utilities are moving into a brave new world where life is going to get a lot more difficult. And we've seen this movie play out before in several other markets around the world. Essentially, as solar becomes more prevalent, it eats into the amount of electricity that a municipality is supplying in the middle of the day as people self-supply from their own solar systems. And while they might sound good on the surface, it's really damaging to the utility because the utility is no longer selling electricity in the middle of the day. And the reason that's important is because the utility relies on those daytime sales in order to make margin. Because during peak hours in the mornings and the evenings, they pay up to 6 times more for electricity from Eskom, and during winter, for example, are forced to sell that electricity at a loss to households. In Cape Town and Joburg, for example, it's all in both of them, about 30% of the budget is electricity sales. So you can think about if they lose this revenue stream, what happens to service delivery in general? This is not just an electricity problem, this is a public sector service delivery problem. We did a previous project actually called Project Smart Geyser, which was the prequel to Project Smart Solar. Project Smart Geyser was a collaboration with the City of Cape Town, eThekwini Municipality, funded by EEP Africa, Geyser, the German development agency, and then participated by several other private sector players as well. Under that project, we deployed 500 hotspots into houses around the Western Cape. and we ran a variety of services. And from this 3-year project, there were 5 key lessons that emerged. The first was that we can reduce the amount of energy that geysers use during those peak periods in the mornings and evenings by up to 80% without anybody having a cold shower. This is in contrast to things like ripple relays, where they turn off your power without you consenting, and then you suffer a cold shower if you happen to use more than what's in your tank. In fact, we found that about 15% of households will have at least a cold shower every week with ripple relays, compared to our technology, which avoids it completely. The second thing we found is that we can reduce maximum demand by up to 60% and eliminate spikes in load on the electricity grid when the power comes back on and all those geysers want to heat up or all those batteries want to charge. The third thing we found is that by shifting this energy away from these really detrimental peak periods and shifting it towards the middle of the day, we could enable solar systems twice as large by creating demand for those solar systems to serve. And fourth was then we could do all of this while ensuring no one had a cold shower, and that residents saved up to 24% off their electricity bills. And so taking this all together came to the fifth and final conclusion, which is that when you're looking at load management, whether it's of geysers or batteries or pool pumps or whatever it is, we shouldn't just be thinking about how these can be tools for addressing load shedding. And that's what many of the policymakers are talking about at the moment. You'll hear talk in the hot water space about load limiting smart meters and ripple relays. These are great tools for reducing load and therefore acting as an alternative to load shedding. However, they leave tremendous value on the table from things like reducing maximum demand and increasing solar use. And so I guess the call to policyholders coming out of these studies were, don't take a myopic view of just load shedding. Consider how these investments we're making in infrastructure can contribute to the energy transition in general and make us into a more competitive energy system.